Today's episode is sponsored by Midwest Fire. For more than 20 years, Midwest Fire has been manufacturing high-quality tankers, tanker pumpers, and fire rescue vehicles in the United States and Canada. Keeping firefighters safe while enhancing their capabilities is what they do best. To learn more, go to MidwestFire.com.
We can dance, everybody look at your hands. We can dance, everybody's taking the chance. Safe to dance, oh it's safe to dance. Yes, it's safe to dance.
Hello and welcome to episode 257 of the Situational Awareness Matters show. I'm your host, Rich Gassaway. The purpose of this program is to help improve situational awareness and high-risk decision-making for individuals and teams who work in high-stress, high-consequence, time-compressed environments with changing conditions. The SAMatters mission is simple. We want to help you see the bad things coming in time to avoid bad outcomes. I'm coming to you today from my office in St. Paul, Minnesota. I'm recording the next couple of episodes early because I'm heading to the Pearl Harbor Naval Shipyard to do situational awareness consulting and training for the Naval Sea Systems Command, or NAVSEA for short. This is the second naval shipyard to hire our company to help improve situational awareness and high-risk decision-making at their facilities. And I am very thankful to the NAVSEA command staff for your faith and confidence in my message. And while I will be in Hawaii, this is no vacation. The assessment will take 10 to 12 hours a day, and that will be followed by 3 days of customized training. All right, in today's feature segment, it's part 2 of a 3-part interview with members of the Thornton, Colorado Fire Department about a Mayday event. Fire-Medic Roy Lapid was working on Thornton Fire Truck Company 75 for a single-family residential dwelling fire. Roy entered the first floor of the structure and started to complete a primary search. However, he quickly found himself falling through the fire-weakened floor into the basement below. This is Roy's story, supplemented by observations from Captain Bret Wentworth and Lieutenant Cody Larson.
I got out and I went straight to the front door, and I actually opened the front door and touched the door. It actually felt warm. I didn't see any fire, but I could see smoke coming out from the eaves and up through the roof. We got the hose line ready, bled it, and prepared to make entry. The front door was locked on the house. We did have to force the door. And me and Firefighter Morris were the first 2 to make entry into this house.
When the crews forced entry in the alpha side door, there was an abundance of smoke that came out the front side. It was light gray smoke. It was not heavy black smoke, and no flames were seen. With reported light to moderate heat in the front doorway.
Made entry through the front door in the Alpha. It was a cold day, so immediately my mask condensed and fogged up. I was able to clear it with one wipe. Light smoke in the room. I saw maybe about 10, 15 feet in front of me.
Since we didn't have a good handle on homeowners, where they were at, my thought process is that we needed to get a search completed on the house to make sure that we had accountability of where the homeowners were at.
There was a staircase on the left, so I walked past the staircase and the hose lines to the living room, and there was something dark on the left side of the room. It looked like a bookcase, so I took a peek to see if there was anyone behind that bookcase. I didn't see anyone.
My first job was to find where the basement was. I wasn't exactly sure where it was. I started right behind the front door, which looked like it was a closet, and I actually found the basement door right behind the front door.
We're at the stairwell to the basement. We have moderate heat. We're going to be making entry down to the basement. Copy, make an entry into the basement.
As I opened the basement door, I could see down the first run. It was half of a staircase. I could see the wall. So there was smoke coming up, but it wasn't dark smoke at all. And I wasn't really sure exactly what we had in the basement. As I turned, there was a return on the stairs, and I took one step, and the top step that was going down into the basement gave way, and Firefighter Morris grabbed my pack, and he pulled me, and we both fell to that landing.
There's some decent smoke in there. I couldn't see Roy, and Dissel had said Roy just went through the floor right in front of me, and I was like, Mayday, 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 and just grabbed the mic and went with it. It was just like training. I mean, we'd gone through it before with the blue card stuff, and so I just didn't even think about it. I just knew that I wanted to be real clear about what I was saying. I couldn't believe it actually had happened. I mean, it really was 2 steps inside the door, and this isn't real.
Mayday, 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 firefighter through the floor, right inside the front door.
Copy, mayday, mayday, mayday. Priority traffic, engine 6-3, firefighter through the floor, front door.
Command, engine 7-3, getting an attic ladder at the front door.
Copy, attic ladder to the front door.
Because it was a very clear, very urgent but not stressful type of a mayday. And then it dawned on me that it was our mayday. It was somebody had gone through the floor on this particular house. From that time forward, for the next couple of minutes, were very chaotic. Span of control was lost. Crews rushed in to try and help, which complicated it even more. We did have a problem. We had several chiefs that were on hand. Everybody wanted to get in and help. And I lost my control for a little bit on who was doing what.
We have firefighters who will be coming out the outside. We also see no fire in the basement at this time.
Command copies, no fire seen in the basement.
Also, a firefighter has been extracted coming out the outside. We still have moderate heat in the house.
Firefighter has been removed, is in medical care. He is ambulating. All crews exit the structure and par.
So after taking a peek at that bookcase, my first step to the right, I instantly fell. It was a weird sensation. You never train for it or expect it. It happened so fast. I reached out initially, kind of felt some resistance, like I was able to catch myself, but then that gave through. I couldn't see initially. There was a lot of dust. I lost my tool during the fall. I was able to see light from the window on the Delta side, and then I could see light up above from the hole. I immediately looked up and called my crew, told them I was all right. Did a quick system check, nothing hurt. It was warm, there wasn't a lot of heat, but there was no smoke either. But the fact that I didn't have my tool and I couldn't really see well, I was in a tough predicament to self-extricate.
We came up with a plan instantly when I did go back upstairs, and I'm sure it sounded like a lot of chaos, but it was actually very calm on the interior, and the way it went was looking back, was very organized, even though it didn't feel like it.
I tried to reach for my radio. I couldn't grab a hold of the transmitter at first. Just out of the situation, just not really panic, just kind of the realization that I fell through the floor. So initially I was worried about getting burned, but right when I landed there was no sensation of heavy heat. So that was strange. It was pretty surreal. It wasn't what I expected, which was a good thing. I mean, I was expecting to get hurt pretty quick.
Looked down in there and I could see Roy, and he was like, "I'm okay." So I knew he wasn't hurt right away, which was a good relief. And then right after that, I had somebody over my right shoulder right after I called the Mayday going, "What do you need?" It turned out it was Bittner, but I couldn't tell at the time, so I just went, "I need an attic ladder," and we threw it down there. And then Roy ended up getting himself up out of the basement with the stairwell. So it was definitely unexpected. I didn't see it coming for sure.
And I opened up the wall that was at the top landing of the stairway, and that's where I could see into the basement. I couldn't see the bottom of the stairs because it was very dark at the bottom of the stairs, but through that wall I could see firefighter paramedic Lapid standing there. There was no fire down there, it wasn't very smoky. And then at that point I heard them getting a ladder to go into the basement, and I called to firefighter paramedic Lapid and told him to come to me because I had no idea exactly what was in there. I wanted him to come and stay away from a collapse or whatever was in there.
Crew unity and identification is key. My intent was to get everybody organized, deploy a company for rescue, keep companies on deck, but things progressed so quickly that before I could even get crews identified, we had the firefighter out.
We had medical immediately available for him to check him out. He confirmed that he was not injured. We did an evacuation of the building and kind of reset ourselves because we still did not have the fire located.
Once we got the crews reset, reorganized, we allowed crews into the basement, into the first floor, and to the second floor to check for fire extension, to conduct a primary and secondary search, to make sure that truly the fire was out.
The fire had extinguished itself. That's where the water had de-sweated the copper piping and had extinguished the bulk of the fire.
That was very hard, I think, for a lot of us to make that switch, thinking that you may have lost somebody, back into a strategy to attack the fire. That was a very hard transition to make.
And it is reliant upon the individual, the crews, to make sure that they don't self-deploy. As much as they want to, we still didn't know where the fire was at, and we still had a fire to put out, and so we really needed to make sure we had crews available to do that. You're going to run out of people, and you need people coming, and you need crews available to take over that, because it sucks up all your resources so quickly.
There's just an emotional thing when it happens for real. I know we train Mayday all the time, but I don't think you really get a real grip until that type of thing happens for real. And you instantly, not only are you trying to deal with the problem at hand in a very quick matter, you're also having a lot of emotional things when you think one of your brothers fell through.
The department has done a good job of training their people to be incident commanders, to be leaders, to deploy properly, matching the strategy to the incident. However, those policies that are not current or up to date have led to ambiguity or confusion as to what we're supposed to do in the event of a Mayday. We've assembled a team of people to review this incident thoroughly. We will review our policies, we will take their recommendations, and we'll make some adjustments so that our policies match really the way we're supposed to practice as an industry standard and the way we should practice in the best interest of our member safety.
It was just frustrating that it happened. But the way it ended up was a good situation. And I think it was important. I think as a department we needed that, just to show our guys that these things do happen and we're not immune to it. And all the training we do is for these situations. You always think it's not going to happen to you, but it did. So I'm just glad it didn't end up the way most of these things end up.
I'm really proud of the work that the crews did, and the work that the crews did that day overshadowed any shortcomings that we have in policy or in practice or personal behaviors.
So I took a peek at the house before going in, and I told the pro we were going to do a left-hand search just off the profile of how the structure was established. We went into the entrance, and then I saw the stairs going upstairs, and then hose lines, and then I didn't really get a good look at the basement stairs going down. Straight ahead of me was part of the kitchen to the right, and then the living room to the left.
What was the smoke condition like at that point, Roy?
Light smoke. I could see my feet.
Okay.
And then I already had the idea that it was an attic fire, so I didn't think about sounding.
Okay. So did the smoke condition change from that first arriving saying zero vis, or was it because they were fogged over, or did the smoke condition improve?
It did. It got a little better because there was some time in between.
Okay.
So.
All right.
My mask did condense when I entered. It was warm. I did one swipe, and I was able to see after that.
Okay.
I could see the window to the kitchen. Not clearly. I could see the outline and light coming in, but it was light haze, and then like light to moderate heat. So I passed the hose line, and I start making my left-hand search into that first living room area. That wall where the hose line was put initially to put the fire out was my first look. I saw something rectangular and dark on the ground. I thought it was a bookcase. It may have just been part of the fire that was burning already. So I took a peek to see if there's anyone behind that area. I didn't really see anyone. And my first step into the living room, I fell straight to the basement. Initially, I reached out to try to catch myself. There was a little resistance, but that gave instantly. And then I ended up falling into the basement on my butt. The probie behind me said I did like a surfing move, slow descent down into the basement. It didn't feel like that for me, but it was pretty much step, and then I'm on the ground in the basement. A few months before that, the captain in California fell through the roof in that garage fire.
Yeah, Pete Perry.
Yeah, and so that was going through my mind. I had that fear that I was going to get hurt pretty bad when I landed. When I did, though, there was moderate heat, no flames, a lot of dust from the fall, so I couldn't see. I tried to wipe my mask. I couldn't see anything. I lost my tool in the process. I was looking for my tool. I couldn't find it. So then at that point, I figured, let's call it Mayday. I saw light from the Bravo window and then from the Delta window. So I figured I can self-extricate because when I landed, nothing hurt. So I figured I could just get myself out of the situation. I went to radio. I installed one of those new retractors for my mic. So as I went to grab it, it did its job and retracted and fell out of my hands. At that time, I saw light from flashlights above. So I figured it was my crew. I looked up and gave a thumbs up, told them it was okay. And in that time, they called the Mayday for me.
So the crew called it?
Yeah, I did not call the Mayday.
So his probationary firefighter that was behind him, as soon as Roy fell through the floor, his first reaction was to just turn and tell his boss, which he did. As soon as Roy fell, he turned and said Roy fell through the floor. The out-of-class officer, he was just walking into the house at that point. He wasn't even very deep. He was just inside the front door, and he just went straight to his mic and just called a Mayday, Mayday, Mayday firefighter through the floor right inside the front door. Even though Roy was, about 15 feet in, that's where that out-of-class officer, he had just entered, and he did a very good job calling a very clear, timely Mayday. And it wasn't, we do the who, what, where model for calling a Mayday, and the who part was not in there, but for other companies and certainly the IC, it helps to know exactly, what unit, what firefighter, who's having the Mayday, but this was a very well called, timely, clear Mayday for being our very first that we've ever actually called.
And it worked out in this situation because if you think back to where Engine 7-3 is on their backs, had just fallen to that first landing on the stairs, describe hearing the building collapse, I can just imagine it's not going to be too long before they get out. They're done with it. So if that Mayday comes 10 to 15 seconds later, they could be outside when they were right next to the Mayday. So the timeliness and the clarity of the Mayday, I think, was huge because he literally fell about 2 feet from the guys that were on the landing on the other side of a wall. So they didn't know. They hear the house, what they say is the house collapse. They could be exiting, leaving all their things to come back out. And then now we don't know. We don't have as good a frame of reference as where we're going, and that he may not have been out of the basement as quickly as he was. was. So to me, in that situation, the who was kind of tertiary. It's not the speed of it, and the promptness and the clarity, I think, worked out for Roy really well.
Yeah.
Okay.
So as I was on the ground in the basement, I stood up, gave him the thumbs up, and then I heard the wall being breached to my left, where the landing was going down for the stairway going down, and it was Medic Otero poking his head through and seeing what was going on
From the landing.
From the landing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay, let me pause for a second. Roy, when they called the Mayday, I want to know, what were you thinking, hey, good idea, I'm glad you guys did that? Or were you thinking, why'd you guys do that? I'm okay.
There's a lot of mixed emotions happening at once.
All right, talk me through that.
So initially landing, there was a fear of getting burned.
Okay.
So I literally braced myself and expected to get hurt.
Yeah, something burned that floor out.
Yeah.
It wasn't termites.
No, for sure. So when there was no flame present, I kind of took a breath and realized, okay, let's try to get out of here. Nothing hurt. I could tell off the bat. I see my exit, but I couldn't find my tool. So in that time, there was a lot of frustration. Like, I just fell through a floor. How could I have done that? So fear, anger, frustration, and then the urgency of trying to get out was all overcoming me at once. I didn't feel panic, but I just knew I had to get out of that situation. So by the time I fell and by the time I got out, it was probably 2-3 minutes. It was pretty fast. So I got up, and as I was trying to move around, that's when the wall was being breached. So I didn't really get a chance to process or do much else after that.
And like Roy said, I think from the time of his entry till he was in the back of the medic unit was under 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So
did it feel like that to you as it was happening?
No, it felt forever, but just playing it back in my head a few times, it was pretty fast.
Yeah.
A ladder came down from the hole from the crew upstairs, and I started walking towards it, and paramedic Otero told me to go towards it instead of going up the ladder. He wasn't sure of the stability of the floor because I just fell through it. He figured the rest of it might fall through, so he told me to go to him, and he assisted me up the landing to exit up the stairway that he came down.
Okay, so where they made the hole in the wall of the landing, I just got to make an assumption that there are 2x4s on 16 centers, and you had to go between them?
It was pretty burned out. There was a good size, pretty much from the delta wall all the way across. It was jagged, but I did have enough access. The landing was about chin height for me, so they had to help me up as I was going up, and then the stairway was burned out, so it was more of them lifting me up than me trying to crawl up or walk up that.
So they pulled you up onto the landing?
Much, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So,
and can you see any fire down there anywhere?
No, there's no fire, no smoke. Well, it was hazy. There wasn't any charged smoke or smoke lingering, but there was just a lot of debris from the dust, or a lot of dust from the debris and the collapse.
Okay.
And the main thing, I knew it was Perry because he had his identifier on his mask with his name on there, so I was able to tell it was him. So he helped me out, and then we exited up the stairs out the Alpha.
Okay.
But engine 7-3 didn't know that these guys were above them searching. And these guys didn't know engine 7-3 was making their way down to the basement. And that's part of the lessons learned that we can get into later. But I would like to note just again, engine 7-3's roller coaster of emotions, and then Perry was able to have the wherewithal to understand at that moment, after going through what they just went through, to breach a wall and put the pieces together in a very short period of time to rescue Roy, basically, even though he kind of got up on his own and went out, but it could have been a different situation.
Right. Very, very different. The fact that you fell 10 feet unharmed is a lucky outcome.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know that there's a fortunate Mayday, but I feel like we had a pretty fortunate Mayday.
Yeah. Of all the potential
right.
that that could hold. All right, so they grab you, they pull you up onto the landing where they are. Now there's 3 of you in that space, which is now even tighter. And I'm guessing the 3 of you just skidoo on out. Is that what? All right, now, do they? How are they managing accountability here with this Mayday? What's the traffic and such like at the command level? Do you bifurcate your command and the command level officer takes the Mayday operations and somebody takes the regular firefighting operations? Talk me through the higher level, what's happening at the street level as all this is happening on the inside.
Yes. Good. Well, the initial thought process of the IC was the Mayday was so clear and unexpected for this type of incident, which was perceived by everybody as a no big deal type of fire. He thought that Mayday transmission was somebody training on our channel, like right out of this, just instantly. That's what he thought. He's like, who is training on our channel? And then he's like, oh, like right then at that same time, he's like, this is our event. This is happening right now. So he did a really good job calling a second alarm. Our dispatch did a really good job. They send out an emergency tone notification of a Mayday happening. He requested a second alarm. He assigned a rescue group supervisor and assigned the RIC company to the rescue group supervisor. The accountability portion of all of this is one of the lessons learned as well. The rescue group supervisor, who at the time was our training chief, was on scene. Had at the time when the Mayday was called, he actually walked to the house, just with no PPE on or anything to just to help manage what was going on. And the accountability portion was very frustrating for him. He didn't know what crews were who, because we had a lot of people that did not have the correct helmet unit identifiers on at the time. So span of control was kind of being lost. Emotions were high. Things became a little bit chaotic in that small space of that entry area. But the incident commander did a really good job. He stayed calm, and that is so important. When your IC, when your company officers can just maintain that demeanor of calmness, really affects everybody. So the way we handle Maydays is we stay on the channel that we're on. We don't switch channels. If we have to switch, the channel, the operations, depending on the magnitude of the incident, we can do that, but we try to leave everything on one channel. What else?
All right, so Mayday, the Mayday is called, command acknowledges the Mayday after it realizes it is in training, and then establishes a rescue group.
Yeah, activates the RIC team.
So you had a RIC team already established, or did you put one together?
So there was. So, and I'll just back up a little bit because this is another good learning lesson. The Engine 63, which is an automatic aid company, they arrived at level 1 staging, and then they staged behind truck 75, which was down the street, and then down another street around the corner, basically out of view of the house, out of view of the video that we have too. So they sat in level 1 for quite a while, and sometimes, if you're familiar with level 1 staging out there, sometimes you can get forgotten about it. And it's up to you. You have to code up on the radio and remind your IC that you're in level 1, ready for assignment. And I've been there. I've done exactly what they did, and they decided to come out of their unit and walk to the command post with some hand tools. So there was a face-to-face communication before the Mayday from the IC with that automatic aid company that you're going to be RIC. You're going to be the rescue team. So they go, okay. So then he airs that on the radio too, because that's information that everybody needs to know. So the way that we run in Thornton Fire is every single engine truck has a RIC compartment with a RIC bag and tools, and it's labeled that on our apparatus, which is in front of this house. So at that point, we had not done enough automatic aid training, and we're trying to change that. Those guys didn't know that, and they decide to go back to their engine, which is down the street, around the block, to get their own equipment, because that's what they're familiar with, and that's what they're going to use, not knowing that a Mayday is about to happen. So they leave, the Mayday drops, they're down the street. They, as quick as they can, they get their equipment and they come back. So that's how the RIC team was kind of implemented on that.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that kind of led to the chaotic feeling of the RGS is by the time, and from the command post, the assignment of RGS and the coordination and the
RGS.
Rescue Group Supervisor.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. Yeah. So the timing and there was no delay in that. That happened very fast. But I think by the time you start to coordinate and formulate a plan, Roy was already out.
Yeah.
So I think it felt a little hectic because it went so fast that plans weren't even allowed to develop. So it may have felt that people weren't doing what they were supposed to, but we all watched Roy
Just happened too fast.
Yeah, it just happened so fast that the RGS didn't even have time to, to a good no fault of his own. Like that's a good feeling, but I can imagine that'd be feel more hectic than seeing plans, develop and be laid out.
So here's something that I've written about and podcasted about. So I'll ask you guys, once Roy was out, did you go through a formal process of Mayday cancellation?
The second alarm was canceled. The firefighter was out. That was announced. We did kind of a tactical reset and got everybody out of the house and did a PAR.
Okay.
And that's where the rescue group supervisor, and he fully admits that it wasn't the right time or place for him to vocalize his frustrations with the helmet unit identifiers and accountability. That was perceived in a negative way by a lot of the crews that just kind of went through what just happened. But there was a tactical reset. The Mayday was canceled. The second alarm was canceled.
Okay. And then the balance of the incident and how it was managed was uneventful? As far as did anything else occur that was of any substance or consequence?
I mean, I guess we should probably talk about the circumstances of the fire, right?
Yeah, I mean, there was some more. I'll get to that. There was a little bit more frustration because we still, even by the time Roy got out, there was no confirmation that the fire was out. I mean, there was still no actual confirmation that there was a fire. Where I mean, we knew there was a fire, but where exactly it was and what happened.
Hold on just a second. I've got to swing back around.
Yeah.
Were you hurt?
At the time, I didn't feel any injuries.
Yeah, I know. That wasn't my question.
But adrenaline's going.
Yeah, great.
After lunch, before dinner, a little achy around the back and around the butt. They did tell me to go home, and I refused. I told them I'm okay. I want to stay here.
Did you land? What part of your body did you land on? Land on your feet? Land on your back?
I landed on my butt.
On your butt.
Yeah.
All right. At that incident, once you got out, did you re-engage as part of a company and do tactical things, or were you like?
I wanted to, and they put me off to the side.
Okay.
So
your whole crew, or just you?
Our whole crew.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he refused to ride on the cot.
Yeah.
He couldn't be bothered. He wanted to walk.
I wanted to go back in. And that's part of it. I was a hard charger. I wanted to go in, do my task, and go to the next one. So since that incident, things have definitely changed in my mind and how I look at things. And I think a lot of that attitude attributed to the reason I fell through the floor. I just wasn't listening to radio traffic. It was a circumstance where hopefully officers will get everyone on the same page before you go on Ideal H and lose all your senses and make sure everyone's aware of, hey, this isn't what it was initially. That didn't happen, unfortunately, so that led us to our situation.
Well, is it fair to assume, Roy, that if that information was shared as part of radio traffic, the command could then make the assumption that you guys were listening to radio, heard it, and knew that there was a potential fire in the basement, notwithstanding the fact that you didn't hear that on the radio, but maybe command's assumption was that you guys were aware of that, but you weren't?
Sure, I'm sure that was a thought.
Okay.
And it was just a situation where there wasn't a lot of feedback or getting everyone on the same page.
Yeah.
There was also another learning point where Captain Wentworth was saying that you've got a lot of people on the lawn, face to face, get everyone on the same page, and then go from there.
Yeah, we don't. From this, we've really focused on our fire trainings to take advantage of those situations. As our fire department hasn't been very good over the years about face-to-face communication that needs to happen that doesn't necessarily need to be aired on the radio. And those are those moments when you're outside and you've got to do your best to get a grasp on what tasks are going on around you and who are doing them before you lose, like he said, before you lose your eyes, your ears, and your touch, and you advance into the structure that you're going into. And so we've really focused on that message with ourselves and our automatic aid, neighbors that we train with too.
Okay, thanks, Roy. Go ahead and continue us on there, Captain.
So once the tactical reset and the PAR was done, we still had to go in and confirm that the fire's out, conduct primary searches, secondary searches, and all that. So there was a little bit more frustration. A truck company was placed with the rescue group supervisor, and they went in that Bravo side window well into the basement to confirm fire out and to do a search, which they did. But there was no communication between the rescue group supervisor and the incident commander. There was communication with the company and the rescue group supervisor down in that area. And that company kind of just self-deployed to the first floor without being told to, and then ended up on the second floor, clearing the entire house, and then radioing command all clears on floor 1 and floor 2 when, command didn't even know that was happening and didn't have a hard confirmation that the fire was out. So there was still some frustration with that, which added to the icy sentiment of him feeling like he lost control of the incident. So,
okay. So what does Thornton Fire do after an event like this to kind of unpackage and learn from this? Is there a formal process that you have done before, or was it a new process that you did here because you haven't had a Mayday before? How did this play out?
Well, it was all, we've had, in my career, I've worked with guys that have retired, and I've heard stories and been involved in, certain things where we could have and probably should have called Maydays for certain things, but we just didn't. I mean, we know the hangups with calling Maydays and that barrier of, the pride and all that stuff when we like to fix ourselves and handle problems. And so thankfully, I feel like that barrier is being, knocked down. It's kind of a different fire service now, which is why we wanted to do the right thing from this. And we didn't really know what to do. I was newly appointed into training, so I was the training guy. So I got placed on we called it a focus group committee, a Mayday focus group, which consisted of our operations chief, myself, a safety and medical officer that wasn't involved in the incident, and a firefighter that was just a representative of our local. So that was our focus group, and none of us were directly involved in the incident. And so our goal was to evaluate the incident, be very transparent and honest with ourselves, have no alternative agendas, and try to make this thing as positive and approach it from a lessons learned point of view that we could share, and also address what we need to address internally as a fire department as well. So, and it took a long time because we didn't, we had to carry on with our day-to-day operations of our fire department as well. So we ended up interviewing 21 people that were directly involved, face-to-face interviews, and we asked them all the same questions, just kind of getting their perspective of what happened, what their assignments were they clear with what their assignments were, did they know that there was a rescue group supervisor, or who it was, just all kinds of, just pretty much everything on what happened. During those interviews, we also asked those people if it would be okay if we videoed them so that we could put out some sort of training video to just share our story of what happened. So, hopefully some other fire departments can learn from that. So we identified a whole lot of lessons learned. We identified a whole bunch of policies and procedures that we need to address internally that we're still working through. And then, with the help of Cody and Roy, we kind of put together our own program for our story, and we did it within our organization. And then that's when I contacted you, and they wanted us to do it for our region. And, we'll see where it goes from there. So
when you interviewed the 21, did that culminate in a report that kind of summarized and captured everything?
Yeah. We put together, our operations chief put together a briefing that we were able to submit to our fire chief on everything, and some rational recommendations. We also reported it to Project Mayday, to the firefighter close call reporting, and I think that's
Was the briefing publicly shared within your department?
not the actual briefing. It was submitted to the fire chief, and from there it kind of left it up to him. But we've been sharing everything, we went to every single station and did this, talked about exactly what happened, every station on every shift, and addressed any questions that people had about it. And then, we shared it with our region as well.
Yeah, and our presentation that we took to all the firehouses and did regionally is, it's comprised of, a synopsis of the event that we talked about for a little bit. And then we actually have the BC footage from the event. And then we talk about our lessons learned. And at the end, then we play the video, the production level video that we kind of came up with. So it's a class, it's a program that we sold to all of our firehouse, not sold, but it was free. But went and presented all of our firehouses on each shift. Everybody was given the information, and then we shared it up here regionally.
So if I'm doing the math right, that sounds like 18 presentations.
Yes, sir.
How long did that take?
More or less. It took a while.
Six stations, 3 shifts?
Couple months.
Wow, that's a big commitment to making sure that everybody learns from this event. Now, Roy, does that make you feel special? Or does that make you feel like, oh my God, look at the work I've made for everybody out of this little event?
I do feel bad that it happened. I do feel it's important that we did share this, because this could happen to anyone on any other shift, any other day. Like they were saying, it appeared to be a no big deal fire, and it shouldn't happen. And I made a lot of mistakes that I shouldn't have done. But it's something that we do, and we need to make changes.
Yeah.
So I thought it was very important for us to share this message and get everyone on the same page, to look out for these things, to be aware of any changes from the initial arrival to current conditions.
And one thing I don't want to breeze over, because I would wonder too, and that I'm proud of that our fire department did, is the attention to the crews after this significant event happened. We had a formal debriefing, kind of a feeling sharing type of event. And then Roy, as stubborn as he may be, was directed and told many times to go home, heeded that advice, and then was taken care of. And I just feel like he was, would you say you're well supported? And
absolutely.
Yeah.
The
I don't want to breeze
department
over that.
Yeah, the department gave me all the resources I needed to seek counseling or to take some time off. Initially, I didn't. I kind of stayed on shift, got all the aches and pains taken care of. And then there was a rash of bad calls that kind of just culminated into this situation that changed me.
Yeah.
So I did seek some counseling, got some treatment done, and it's changed a lot.
Okay.
So I was happy we're doing this. I want to be a poster boy for this, to one, be aware of what happened, and then two, let people know afterwards all the support you can get.
So Roy, when this happened and they said, okay, Roy, go home. You've had a busy day. And you went home without digging too deep into your personal life. Did you have any conversations with anybody when you went home? Like, hey, guess what happened today? Thank you, Fire-Medic Roy Lapid, Fire Captain Bret Wentworth, and Lieutenant Cody Larson for sharing your time and experience with us today. Remember, this is part 2 of a 3-part show, so be sure to tune in next week for the 3rd and final part. Well, I never thought we'd make it this far, but we did. The show is fast approaching its 5th anniversary, and I am very proud to be the longest running, consistently broadcasted, independently operated show focused on a singular mission to improve the safety and survival of individuals and teams who work in high-risk, high-consequence environments. Let me pause for a moment and elaborate on one little component of that previous statement, the consistently broadcasted part. A new episode of this show has been released every Tuesday for the past 5 years. Never have I missed even one Tuesday. Never, ever, never. No other podcaster in this space can make that claim. In fact, most podcasters fade out after just a dozen or so episodes, or they become very inconsistent with airing new episodes. Not me. You can set your clock by the fact that there's going to be a new episode waiting for you every Tuesday. I promise. There will be. Now, I gotta admit, that's not an easy promise to keep sometimes. My travel schedule means that there are times when I'm recording or editing this show well after midnight on Monday night, because I gotta keep my promise to you to have that show ready by Tuesday morning. And I totally understand how other podcasters can fade away or become inconsistent. It can get lonely here behind the microphone and camera. And by lonely, I mean we podcasters rarely get any feedback from you, the viewers and listeners. Sure, we see the stats telling us the episode's getting downloaded thousands of times, but rarely does anyone ever write a review or send an email that says, hey, like the show, really like this lesson. Yeah, it doesn't happen very much. So I rarely know if the show is inspiring anybody or if it's not. But I just keep on keeping on, putting out the best possible safety-focused content that I can come up with. Now, to honor those who've been watching the show, we're going to do a giveaway of products from our sponsors and supporters, like Midwest Fire, hats like this, and pullovers and sweatshirts that maybe look like this, maybe not exactly like this. I never know. I don't know what they're going to send me. They're always updating their bling. But listen to the upcoming episodes and watch the SAMatters website for more on that. The SAMatters show launched in 2014 with a purpose: to give a platform to those who've had near-miss events to tell their stories, just like the ones you listen to here. When I'm on the road, they tell me the most amazing stories at classes. And I thought, man, I got to find a way to help those stories get shared with a bigger audience. Stories just like the ones you just listened to from Thornton Fire Department. It was stories like theirs that motivated me to launch this podcast in the first place, so their lessons could be shared with the bigger audience. The bigger audience, that's you, the bigger audience. The Situational Awareness Matters show, podcasted as SAMatters Radio, and our companion video program, SAMatters TV on YouTube, along with other videos we've posted there, have enjoyed over 800,000 downloads. That number blows my mind and far exceeds all my expectations. And I'm so thankful for your support, and I'm so honored to be able to provide this platform for these amazing stories to be shared. If you like the show, please consider doing a solid favor for me. Subscribe. It's easy. For the audio version, you just search SAMatters Radio. SAMatters Radio on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher Radio, or iHeart. For the video version, subscribe to SAMatters TV, SAMatters TV on YouTube. And if you find the show valuable, I'd really appreciate it if you'd consider writing a review and giving it a rating. Your ratings and reviews help others to find the show, but more importantly, your feedback inspires me to want to work harder for you.
Real expectations, because SA matters.
Know your limit. Know your partner's limit, because SA matters.
Assumptions are bad. SA matters.
Proper PPE is important, because SA matters.
Flawed situational awareness is a really big deal. SA matters.
Know your water supply, because SA matters.
Bears and Cougars, SA matters. Go versus no-go, because SA matters.
Confidence is good. Overconfidence is bad. SA matters.
Buddies matter, because SA matters. SA matters, so don't get angry.
When the pigs are eating lemons, SA matters.
Our academy class is going home today because we know that SA matters.
SA matters!
Since 2007, Situational Awareness Matters instructors have helped more than 1,300 organizations and have trained over 75,000 individuals on improving high-risk decision-making, including first responders, industrial workers, military personnel, business leaders, medical professionals, utility workers, highway workers, public transportation operators, aviation workers, oil refinery process operators, and more. If you work in a high-risk, high-consequence decision-making environment, or if you know somebody who does, we're here to help improve your safety and your survival, and to help you accomplish the most important mission of all. And that's to go home to the ones who love you. I would like to take a moment to thank and honor the companies, organizations, agencies, and departments that have hosted recent Situational Awareness Matters training for their members. The Baytown Fire Department in Baytown, Texas. The Ponderosa Fire Department in Houston, Texas. The Northwest Volunteer Fire Department, also in Houston, Texas. The Maryland Fire and Rescue Institute's National Fire Service Staff and Command Program in Towson, Maryland. And by the time this episode airs, I will be at the Pearl Harbor Naval Shipyard in Oahu, Hawaii.
I think Rich's ability to connect with any crowd, that's a gift that he has, and it's easily transferable.
This is the second or third time that I've heard him speak. There's some teeth to the information that he brings.
It's been really good. Good mixes. He knows when to throw in a joke here and there to get you back involved.
Some tools. I'm a new lieutenant, so very, very interesting. And some of these things I can take back to the station and use with some of the new firefighters I have on my crew.
Something to get you thinking about your job more, big picture type stuff. I've seen him before. A good review for sure.
I have heard him before, yes. After he speaks, there's usually an enlightenment because now they're more aware of what's going on around them and what they're experiencing as they respond to calls.
He's very, very knowledgeable. I'm enjoying it so far.
And that intuition, that's a big one. The video that he just showed up here, we're getting a lot out of this. I think this is a really good seminar, especially for new people and old. So I think it's very informative. This talk gives us more ammunition to do all three.
They're relatable to what we have experienced or very well could experience, so he makes it easy to let the knowledge sink in.
I mean, it's awesome. A lot of stories you can usually relate to yourself and calls you have been on, aha moment. Like, he just helps you focus on picking out the right things. It's awesome. It's a refresher and keeps my eyes open. It's good stuff.
If people listen to the message that he has, it's an incredible message delivered by a very compassionate person. Strategy and tactics are going to always change. Situational awareness it doesn't change. It's always there.
He's got some good stories to tell, and he's very thorough with his stories, and it's interesting listening to him.
Very clear speaker, and he talks on our level because he's been there, he's been in the trenches. I think he's doing well at it. I'm looking forward to the second half.
If you're interested in where we're going to be upcoming, here's the schedule. On April 11th, I will be at the Fire Department Instructors Conference in Indianapolis, Indiana. April 14 to 16, I'm heading to Washington State for the Washington Fire Training Officers Association Conference in Wenatchee. April 25th, I'm heading to Georgia for the International Association of Fire Chiefs Company Officer Leadership Series in Atlanta. April 27th, I'll be back in Minnesota for the Cook County Emergency Management Agency Seminar in Grand Marais. April 30 and May 1, I'm heading to North Carolina for the New Hanover County Fire Department Officer Development Seminar in Wilmington. From there, I'm heading to Indiana. On May 7th, I will be at the Scott Township Fire Department in Evansville. And then heading down to Nashville on May 8th for the Fast 19 conference. And then May 21, back to Washington State for the Washington Fire Chiefs Association Conference in Kennewick. If you want to see the locations of all the upcoming events, just head over to the SAMatters.com website. They're all listed there. If you're interested in hosting a program, just click on the Contact Us tab on the top of the SAMatters.com homepage, and I will give you a call. If you want to become part of the SA Matters community of learners, there's several ways that you can do that. Click on the show notes to see how to get connected with us by signing up for our monthly newsletter, subscribing to the SA Matters radio podcast, subscribing to the SA Matters TV YouTube channel, and how to follow us on the social media channels of Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. There we share ideas about how to improve situational awareness, how to make better decisions under stress, and how to improve skills in critical thinking and resilient problem solving. Well, that's it. Episode 257 of the Situational Awareness Matters show is complete. Thank you again to my guests, Thornton Fire-Medic Roy Lapid, Thornton Fire Captain Bret Wentworth, and Thornton Fire Lieutenant Cody Larson for sharing your experience with us. Thank you to our awesome sponsor, Midwest Fire. If you're in the market for a pumper tanker, or a brush truck, you need to check them out at MidwestFire.com. Thank you to our associate sponsor, Chief Miller. Thank you to all the companies, agencies, and organizations that have hosted Situational Awareness Matters training programs. And thank you to all the organizations that have hosted the live stream training program, where I come to your organization live via the internet and train your members. Thank you to the more than 2,500 students and graduates of the highly acclaimed Situational Awareness Matters Online Academy. The feedback I receive from the Online Academy graduates is just amazing and very humbling, and thank you for that. And most importantly, thank you, the listeners and viewers of this show, for sharing some of your valuable time with me today. I really appreciate your support of the SAMatters mission. Be safe out there, and may the peace of the Lord and strong situational awareness be with you always.
You've been listening to the Situational Awareness Matters radio show with Dr. Richard B. Gassaway. If you are interested in learning more about situational awareness, human factors, and decision-making under stress, visit SAMatters.com. If you are interested in booking Dr. Gassaway for an upcoming event, visit his personal website at richgassaway.com.